Good day, collectors and viewers. Social Distance Warrior is back, and today we're going to look at Anakin Skywalker as he appeared in Attack of the Clones, Episode 2. So, back in 1999, George Lucas released the prequel trilogy. The first movie was Phantom Menace, that came in 99. And then just like the original Star Wars movies, we'd have to wait 3 years between movies to get the next one. And the next one was in 2002, and it was Attack of the Clones. And in Attack of the Clones, it takes place approximately 10 years after Phantom Menace. So where we last saw Anakin in the Phantom Menace, at the end there, he was just a small little Padawan boy. And now we see him 10 years later. He's a grown man, and he's Padawan to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we get to see him in his full glory and full darkness, of course, as well in this movie. So he first appeared in that movie, 2002, and of course there was a toy line. We didn't get the same release as we did with Phantom Menace, where they had a midnight release. That did not happen with the Saga Collection because they branded it all into one line. But we did get a brand new Anakin Skywalker as he was depicted in the movie. So that would be this Anakin Skywalker over here. This one was titled Anakin Skywalker Hangar Duel, as he appeared towards the end of the movie in his fight scene with Count Dooku, of course, Obi-Wan himself and Count Dooku, and then of course we'd see Yoda save the day afterwards. So that's Anakin Skywalker there. It's a nice figure. A lot of the figures for the Saga Collection, they did come pre-posed or with action features. This one, I won't say suffers, but has the same feature as well. I mean, it's nice. It gives it playability for the kids, but as far as longevity or limitations towards what they can do with the figures, it does have some as a result of it. So he did have a couple of lightsabers. I only have him with one here in his hand. He has standard articulation. I'll just show you what he looks like on his face there. He's got his Jedi braid hanging over. It's a nice figure considering this is 20 years old. He does have articulation on the head. You can turn that side to side. He does have articulation up here at the shoulder to move his arm up and down. He's holding a lightsaber in hand there, and of course you can move this arm as well, and it does have a swivel at the elbows there as well, so you can turn it back and forth. You can't bend them, but back and forth. And you'll notice that this hand seems to be sitting loose, like it's not fixed in there, like it's broken. I'll just show you how that is in 1 second now. And then this one over here, his hand sitting too far open to be holding a lightsaber, and that's because he's got a magnet in there. They had the figures all had force features, force effects, and Anakin was one of them, and he's just holding a lightsaber blade here in hand. And I just want to show you what that looks like. So that does come out separately, so you can use it as a separate hilt. It's nice, it's metal, so you have that as an accessory. And then of course you have the lightsaber here. Now a lot of these are very, very fragile. I have a bunch of mine in my collection that are broken because this tip is fragile. After a while, you're sitting plastic on metal, it's not going to hold forever, unfortunately. So you got to be very careful putting that in and out, and try to eliminate taking it out too often with this figure. So this lightsaber is a little bit warped, but it's a nice feature to have it. And of course that sits in his hand here, and if you bring it up close, you'll notice it still works 20 years later. He's got a magnet in there, and it's colored with his skin tone, but he can pull that lightsaber to his hand if he's standing close to it. So nice little action features for the kids. We can turn him here at the waist, so he does go side to side. That's a standard feature on modern Star Wars figures. And then there is some leg articulation, but again, and that's of course stopped by his robes there because it's solid. It doesn't have a slit here on the side to move them back and forth, so not much movement there. You can't sit him down. As far as the legs, you can see they're pre-posed. His boots are nice. The detail is really nice on the figure. Underneath here, he's got his foot pegs, and then that's what he looks like from the side as well. And then I'll show you his action feature in a second. And you turn to the back, you're going to notice, hey, there's something different about this character. Is he a robot? What's going on? They made a clone of Anakin in Attack of the Clones? No, he's got an action feature there with a dial on his back. We're going to look at that in a sec. But you can see it fits in nicely. It's colored properly, so it doesn't stand out like an eyesore unless you're looking at him from the back. So if you're at the side there, you're at the front, you'll be okay. Now what that feature is, if you put a lightsaber in this hand here, and you turn that dial, I'll just show you that for 1 sec. Let's put that arm up, and if you turn that dial, it spins the lightsaber around. See that? So you can have his hand in battle and have him battling Dooku or some of the Genosians or whatnot that were in the movie. So, or Sand People. Let's not leave out the Sand People. So that's what the action feature is, but it has a nice little other action feature on here as well. And it's on this arm here, and I intentionally didn't show you the articulation there at the elbow because this part here is removable. So you take that apart, you'll notice that there's a magnet holding it together, and I love this feature because it didn't have to peg it in, and it doesn't, take away from anything. It's almost a nice clean cut, just like Anakin's arm would be after fighting Count Dooku. So that comes apart there, and of course it was a spoiler. If you picked up this figure and didn't see the movie, you'd wonder why that comes apart and probably figure it out. Now the magnet's painted brown as well, which is nice. So you can have that apart, and inside here it's painted brown as well. So that stood the test of time very good considering it's 20 years. Some of the magnets didn't. The ones that weren't painted didn't last very well, but this one did. So a nice action feature on Anakin there. And that's what we get in 2002. Of course, he was the first of many because we were going to cash in on Anakin Skywalker just like we did with Luke Skywalker. So the next figure we're going to look at, it was also in 2002. This was a Star Wars Saga Deluxe set. It was Anakin Skywalker, and he came with a Geonosian. It's this figure over here. Now, this is a really neat one. It's pre-posed, and honestly, I didn't buy the set for the Anakin. I actually bought the set for the Geonosian because he can chop him in a couple spots. Apparently there was a deleted scene where he cuts open a Geonosian, but they cut it out of the movie. I guess it was too violent, or it wasn't complete, one of the two. But that's the Anakin that we got, and you'll notice that he does have plastic robes coming over. It's not cloth, it's plastic. It's a soft plastic that doesn't restrict his arms from coming in and out. And of course he does have an action pose as well. So let's just take him off the peg to show you. He does come with two lightsabers. They're both in hand. He does have a face sculpt where he's yelling, he's screaming. He looks like a very angry Anakin there. And then you can see the robe comes down between his belt there. There's a separate piece that's a belt, and it's it flaps up over his pant legs over there, and you can move his legs up. Articulation on the arms, you can't do anything with this figure. He's solidly restricted there. You can just move him at the wrist, but you'll see why he's solid, because he does chop that Geonosian in half. So let's just look at his full profile there from the front. Let's look at him underneath there. He does have his foot pegs, which is nice. Otherwise, he's very difficult to stand. You see what it looks like there from the side, pre-posed. And then you see what it looks like from the back. And you can see he's got his Jedi braid there as well with the little beads on the end. And again, an action feature. You see there's a button there on his back. Now, I know a lot of people hated this, but there's certain things I like about it. As long as we get a better version of them, I like these action figures. It makes you want to play with them a little bit as well, as opposed to just stand him there in the background. So if you push that button there on the back, he does a slicing motion with the arms. See that on the front? That's pretty neat. And then if you have the Geonosian, he basically cuts that Geonosian in half. And I'm going to show you what that Geonosian looks like as well. So here's the Geonosian that he came with. It's just like the standard release Geonosian, but it's a little bit different. So the paint job is slightly different. He's a little more green. He does have his translucent wings on the back, which is nice here. And you can pose them. You can bring them up or bring them down. Now, if you bring your Anakin Skywalker close, let's see if I can do this without busting him. And you do that a cutting motion, he's going to cut up our Geonosian. You can see he breaks there at the waist, and he's colored. It's like a blood color in there. See that? But he also busts up here as well. So he comes apart on that side as well. And I found that so neat for a figure. I wish you would have seen that in the movie, but what a neat accessory to have. And I bought this set specifically for this awesome Geonosian that you could put together or break apart in your arena scene. So that's what we get with the deluxe set Anakin. Next one we look at is also in 2002. This one was called Tatooine Attack Anakin. And that's this guy over here. Let's bring him close up. Now with this Anakin Skywalker, you'll notice that again, he's pre-posed like every single figure was at the time. But they've gotten a lot better at the sculpting. And the face sculpt on this one is a lot better than the previous one. And I'll bring that up close just to show you. A lot more detail, a lot better paint job. I like his expression here. He looks angry, and this is the scene where he goes to save his mother, Shmi, from the Tusken Raiders, and unfortunately he finds her and gets to say bye, but she passed away from her wounds. and succumb to her wounds. And then he comes out of the tent and starts slaughtering all the Tuskens. And that's the Anakin that we get there, so that's why he's looking angry. Now, he does have some articulation here as well, so his head does move side to side, okay? His arms do move up and down. Again, fixed in a pose there, so it's really hard to do something. On the opposite side here, he does have articulation at the elbow there too, so he can move it back and forth. He does have it at his wrist, so they've come a long way with the articulation on the figures. And of course, he does have the force effect as well, where you can take his lightsaber and you can put it in his hand. And if you look at the magnet in this hand, it wasn't painted, and you can see it's starting to fall apart. There's little strands of metal coming off of it there, but it still works. 20 years later, he can still hold on to his lightsaber in hand there. Now, he does have some sculpted robes coming down over here to let his knee protrude through. And underneath there, you can see he's got fabric material as well. So they started experimenting with fabric on the characters and getting it in there where they could. And of course, that adds a lot. If they didn't have that fabric there, the figure would look pretty strange not having that space between the legs, especially when they're not sculpted with articulation. Now, on the knee on this side over here, it does bend, so you can bend that knee. So he does have some articulation there, nothing at the bottom here, and you can turn his leg a little bit there as well. Underneath, he does have foot pegs, and then that's what he looks like from the side, okay? And we'll turn around to the back, and again, we've noticed now 3 Anakins in a row with buttons on the back. And this guy's no different. He's got the button on the back there too, and the reason for that button is, mine doesn't work very well, but you're supposed to bring his legs together, and then he does a kicking motion when you push that button there on the back. See? Mine doesn't work very well, and now he's supposed to kick over this Tusken basket or stand that he's got over there. It's a neat little accessory that we don't get much of anymore, but you can put that in the background with your Tusken camp. So with all this barrage of Anakin Skywalkers in 2002, we'd also get another one to coincide with the Count Dooku and Obi-Wan force flipping action. So they made these figures that were pre-posed. We'll throw a picture up because I don't have the Anakin. I do have the Dooku and the Obi-Wan. And I did buy them just because I liked the diorama piece that it came with. It was basically a piece of the ground from the secret hangar that Dooku was in when he was trying to escape. And the whole floor has a metal finish to it. And if you put them side by side, you can have Jedi versus Sith battle each other. Now, there's one trick here. It looks like a great concept, but it's almost next to impossible to flip that figure and have him land on his feet. And I think I tried at least 1,000 times. I got it to work once or twice. And there's lots of things that you have to keep changing. You have to alter the way the arm is holding the lightsaber. You have to alter the way the figure is standing. He has to be a little bit forward or a little bit further back. But every now and then you can get it to work. And again, they were experimenting with stuff. So we did get an Anakin. He's not here, of course, but we have a picture up there to show you. Next one would be in 2003. So we'd fast forward 1 year. And we'd continue on with the Star Wars Saga line. This time we get Secret Ceremony Anakin. That's this guy over here. So they did release a Padme as well with the Anakin. And it was the secret ceremony of their wedding at the end of that movie. So as we find out that they do secretly get married because they loved each other. They fell in love in this movie. And that's the Anakin that we get. Now, the Anakin's a lot better than the previous version that we got. And every single time they make a better version, I'd have to pick it up. Now, he does have a plastic cape instead of a cloth one. But the good thing about it, it's removable. So we're going to look at that in a sec. Let's just look at the cape so I can show you the detail. You can see it's got nice wrinkles, texturing there on the back. He's got his Jedi robe hood sitting back there as well. And then he's got these flaps sitting over the front. And of course, he's a slightly different Anakin Skywalker because he's got a metal hand now instead of the human hand because of what happened in the movie earlier on. So let's take off that robe. You can see it easily comes off. There's not much to it there. And then here's the Anakin we get underneath. Now he's almost a perfectly posed Anakin. Positioned. He doesn't have much action posing on here. His legs are a little bit bent, but he's a lot better than the previous ones we've gotten, as we're going to see now. And we've got something else introduced here that you're going to love. So at the head, we can move that side to side. He does have his Jedi braid. Let's just bring that in close just so you can see what he looks like. Side to side. He's got his braid. And then as we go over to the shoulder, we'll notice something that was a new feature at the time. Swivel shoulders. How awesome is that? Finally, right? A lot more articulation with this figure, and you can see it goes a long way, especially when they're trying to do action poses. So we have that on this figure. He does have swivel at the elbow as well. And then you'll notice in his hand here, he's got a metal hand, okay? And no articulation at the wrist here, just at the elbow and at the shoulder. But nonetheless, it works pretty good with that side. The belt is sculpted on. It's not a separate piece. On this side over here, he is motioning his hands like he's doing the force. He's doing a force push. So you can stick him in an action pose. You can see they sculpted the hand nicely. Unfortunately, he can't hold anything in this hand, so you can't do the scene with the two lightsabers. You can only do it with one. And I don't think he was using the force on Padme during that secret ceremony. I hope not. I hope not. So no cloth robes over here, just plastic coming over. As a result, you can't really do anything with his legs. He's stuck in that pose. He doesn't have any bends at the knees. That's fully sculpted there. But now you'll notice here at the ankles here, you can turn them back and forth. So again, they've come a long way. You can bring them back and forth as well. It does look a little strange. You know, it's a little thin in that area, but nonetheless, progress here, right? We're watching our figures go from no articulation to articulation and better sculpting. And then same thing goes with this leg as well. It does have that articulation there at the ankle. So that's what he looks like from the front. Just lost the figure in the back there. That's what he looks like underneath. And then from the side, there we go. And finally, no action feature sticking out of his back. So he's got a nice sculpt all the way around. And that's what we get with the Secret Ceremony Anakin Skywalker in 2003. So next up in 2003, we get another figure of Anakin Skywalker, this time with the vehicle. Now, this one was a tough one for me to acquire because there wasn't many to find around, and it was basically a couple years till I got one. I didn't want to pay any scalper prices at the local comic shop, so I just waited till the hype died and then the figure was available, and I really wanted to get that Swoop bike. So that's this guy over here, Anakin on Swoop bike. Now the Swoop bike's amazing. It's the red Swoop bike that he was driving, riding in the movie when he went to look for his mom on Tatooine. So you can see it's fully sculpted there, and it comes with a fully pre-sculpted Anakin Skywalker as well. So none of these accessories are removable on the bike here. The bike is just doesn't have any action features. It's just positioned in a way for him to ride it, but it's a really nice bike. It's the first time you get a Swoop bike. So I'll just show you what that looks like side to side. Bring it around this way too. And you can see Anakin's on the bike there riding, and you can see in the back it's got a bag. No, that's not Shmi inside the bag there. That'll be the blanket that he's probably going to wrap her in. That doesn't sound too nice, but that's potentially what it is. And there's the front of the bike, and then we're going to take Anakin off and show you what he looks like. So here's the Anakin off the bike, and you can see he's looking like he's got stage fright or like he's got to go to the washroom. But he's, yeah, again, action pose to ride that bike. Let's bring him up close just to show you his head sculpt. So he's got an interesting expression on the figure here, but nonetheless, it makes it unique from the other one. So I don't mind that too much. He's got his robes. They're flapping in the wind here. That's what that's supposed to look like from the top. And then lightsaber in hand. Now the lightsaber does kind of come out of his hand. Articulation at the shoulders here. You can just move them up and down on both sides there. And he's got articulation at the wrist so that he can grip the Swoop bike handlebars. Okay. And then at the waist here, he does move side to side, but again, it's action feature oriented. And you can see his robes here. They're positioned up because he's just in the sitting position. This one does have articulation at the knees, so you can bend them to sit on that Swoop bike. Nothing at the ankles, but he does have foot pegs underneath. And his legs don't come any closer together. They're fixed in that pose there. So his only use is just riding that bike, but that's where you're going to want to have him anyway. So same thing on that side, and that's what he looks like from the side, Anakin. And then, of course, from the back, just in case you guys were missing the action feature on the back, this time he's got it on his butt there. So he's got a little button there you press. And then if we lift his arm up here, we can see him do some slashing action. Now, they've made it in a way where you can have him sitting on the bike and then slashing as he's riding. Or you can take him off and then have him fighting some Tuskens. Now, his head is in an interesting position. It's kind of bent backwards, just so he's riding. So if you have him standing, you're not really able to do anything with him in that position. So that's the Anakin Skywalker that we got on the Swoop bike. Let's just take a quick look at the Swoop bike without Anakin riding on it, so you can see the seat. You can see they did a nice detail on this. They put this seatbelt strap over. It just hooks in. It clips in right there, just so you can see. and easily can take the figure off and on. He's got little foot pegs on the bottom here too to put his feet on. And of course, if you wanted to, you could use this with a more recent Anakin Skywalker to get him sitting on there. But I have this guy sitting there so I can use the current one in a different scene. And that's what it looks like, fully detailed from above without anybody riding it. Okay? So it's a nice accessory, a nice swoop bike. The only way you can get the swoop bike is with that Anakin Skywalker. Now, let's head ahead. Couple years now, 2005, we wouldn't see another Anakin Skywalker from Attack of the Clones. This time we get an evolution set. So Hasbro started making premium versions of figures. They did it with the vintage original trilogy collection in those hard shell clam box figures, original figures, and they did it as well with these evolution sets. And Anakin, there was an Anakin Skywalker from Attack of the Clones, there was a Anakin Skywalker from Revenge of the Sith, and there was a Darth Vader, and it was the evolution of Darth Vader. An awesome set, and that was 2005. And we get what is my favorite Anakin Skywalker, this guy over here, fully detailed. This Anakin is got leather robes coming over the top with a belt underneath there. I love this feature. He does have cloth robes underneath here. So again, they went premium features on these figures. And of course, he's fully articulated, which was something brand new to us at the time as well. It was made for premium figures. So we bring him up close there just to show you his face sculpt. You can see he's got a lot more serious look. He doesn't have his mouth open, but a very serious look. Nice blue eyes. He does have his Jedi braid. Now you'll notice his head now is on a ball. So that's changed. Not just back and forth. You can pull the head back. You can put it forward and side to side. So with the ball, full articulation there. Swivel shoulders again here, right? So fully articulated at the shoulder and now at the elbow as well, okay? And at the wrist, you can turn that side to side as well to grip his lightsaber. Under the robes here, you can see he does have his regular robes, but this leather piece or fabric piece on top gives it a lot more detail. Then we have a separate piece that's a belt here that's holding the figure together. And then, of course, the robe going under the belt. And then the fabric piece underneath there just so you can sit him down. Now, at the beginning of the video, I did have a picture where he's sitting in the speeder. And then you can put him in that speeder and ride. So he's got articulation there at the knees. Okay, the legs just move up at the thighs there. You can turn him side to side as a result. Have him sitting. And then he does have no articulation here at the bottom on his leg, okay? Fixed there. And then if we look at him underneath, he does have foot pegs, okay? And then if we turn him to the side, that's what he looks like. And then if we turn him around to the back, that's what he looks like. No action features on the back of this guy. Okay, and they painted that little separate ponytail that's in the back there too, because he's still a Padawan. But this figure is awesome. This figure, a lot more serious tone look to it. So that same Evolutions Anakin that we saw there would also appear in a 2010 Geonesis Arena set. Yeah, it was a 2-pack with a Droideka. It's exactly the same figure, but they did make a brand new head for that figure. And then, of course, if we jumped ahead a number of years to 2013, we'd also get a Black Series 3.75-inch version of that same character. Also with that Evolutions body, but this time with a new head. Okay, and then they've removed the fabric that we had on this guy over here, and they replaced it with a fully plastic sculpted character from the previous one. Now, Star Wars would go dormant. We wouldn't get another version of Anakin Skywalker from Attack of the Clones. They had a lot of other stuff that they could work on, and we unfortunately never got him in the vintage collection. It would have been better to get him in the vintage collection, but they canceled that right after Disney took over, and then we got that Black Series version. So we'd have to wait a number of years, but we finally got a new version of him, and again, he's the reason why we're getting this review today. In 2022, we get a vintage collection version of Anakin Skywalker. That was that Black Series figure, but this time with some real scan technology on the face and on the vintage card back. So that's this guy over here. Let's bring him forward. So you can see how awesome he looks on that card back. It's a nicely depicted scene there with Anakin. He does come with his lightsaber. He does come with his separate hand, so you can switch him from 2 different scenes in the movie there. He does come with a lightsaber hilt, and of course he's got a combination here of the sculpted plastic robes and some fabric underneath there, so you can have him sitting if you want. We'll look at the loose version. I have one there as well. So you can see the Attack of the Clones logo there, Anakin Skywalker Padawan, and the Kenner logo there. I'm turning around to the back so we can see. On the back here we have VC number 244, and there's some other figures that were available in this wave and in the wave around it as well. But that's the Anakin Skywalker on-card vintage collection at last. So we're going to look at him loose as well. And that's him over here. Let's bring him forward. Okay, so this Anakin Skywalker does come with soft good robes, which is nice. I'm not too crazy about this one just because it doesn't hang over. I would have preferred it goes over his head and doesn't have the opportunity to go back and forth because he just has a string there. But he has these two flaps that he had also on that Secret Ceremony Anakin that was part of his robe on this guy. So I'm not too crazy about the robe, but I am happy that it's soft goods. It's on there. And again, you can, position it over him and have him standing with his robe on or his robe off. In this case, that's him with the robe on. Let's take that robe off just so we can look at the figure. And again, there's a string that's holding that on there. You can see that right there. Now they've improved the string. That they did have a Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi released in the vintage collection a number of years back, and he had this same string idea here, except that you have to tie it with your hand. So you'd have to have tiny hands to tie that thing and make it look decent. And so that was a difficult figure to position with his, or to display with his robe on. So that's his robe separate there. Okay. And then here's the figure. Now the figure is a really nice figure. He does have that real scan technology. So he is an improvement, of course, over the one that came in the Black Series, which I don't have. I don't have that figure. So it was nice to get this one, but fully articulated. Now, if we bring him up close, it's nice to have that real scan technology, but if they're just going to use that technology over an existing figure, which this is, then you're going to get someone that looks a little bit more like Eddie Munster than Anakin Skywalker. And don't ask me why. He does look like Eddie Munster. It's the eyebrows or the hairstyle, but there he is with his Jedi braid as well on there. Okay. He does have his lightsaber in hand. We're going to take that out just to show you what he looks like there for a sec. So there's his lightsaber, again, fully painted. Hasbro's come a long way with the lightsaber. The hilts aren't removable anymore, but you do get a removable hilt, or a lightsaber hilt that's not ignited with the figures. So that's his lightsaber. Articulation wise, you can see that, he has his Jedi robes. They come up over the shoulders, which is nice. So it hides that articulation there, and you can lift his arms up, full ball there. He does have it at the elbows as well. And then at the wrist here, you can turn them side to side. And if you look inside, you can see, a big long part of the robe there on the wrist goes further in. It's not just his hand doesn't just end at the end there, which is nice. So it adds a lot of realism there to the figure. And same thing with the opposite side. Okay. And then at the waist here, you can turn them side to side. You can't go up and down, just side to side. You can see I have another lightsaber that he came with there on his belt. So you can attach that to his belt and have him walking around with no lightsaber ignited. And then his robes here, this is a separate, softer piece of plastic. And you can see the fabric robes underneath. And I like the fabric robes because it hides that leg. It makes it look like he's got his robes on fully over there. It's covering. He does have articulation there at the legs. You can move them fully. Okay, open, closed. At the knees as well. Okay, you can bend them. You can twist them. You can position them in many, many ways. And then, of course, at the ankle as well. Full ankle articulation. And you'll notice that he's got rocker ankles. So they've added that feature. And I please add this to every single figure going forward. This is like the one missing ingredient we had with our Star Wars figures. And for those of you that don't know, if you want to position your figures in an action pose, your figure will stand like that if you don't have any rocker ankles. If you have rocker ankles, you can do this and have him stand fully flat. And how amazing is that? It just looks and adds to the realism. You don't have a wonky, wobbly figure. So a perfect version, probably not a better one. We're not going to get a better one than this one unless they were to change that head sculpt. But I'm happy with this, and I'm happy they've put that on the vintage card back because I love this appearance of Anakin Skywalker. That's what he looks like underneath as well. So he's got foot pegs. There he is from the side. Okay, and then we turn around to the back, and again, no action feature. Just a nicely sculpted figure with all little details on his belt going all the way around. So that's our ultimate version of Anakin Skywalker from the vintage collection. And of course, we want to take a look at the Black Series version of Anakin Skywalker as well. So this is from 2020. We got a Black Series 6-inch version of him as well. And I love this figure as well. There's one thing I don't like about him, but it's got an amazing head sculpt. To just bring it forward to show you. It doesn't do it justice. I know looking on camera, the figure looks maybe like it's not as fully detailed, but in person, the face sculpt is phenomenal on this guy. And I love the hair and the way it's sculpted and all the different shades on there. And he's got his Jedi braid. Now, he does have both lightsabers in hand here, okay? He came with one. I took the other one from my General Grievous because I love Anakin posed in this style with those two lightsabers. So full articulation, just like that 3 3/4 inch one. You can move his arms up and down, okay? His head is on a ball, so you can move that back and forth, up and down as well, okay? As far as the waist here, side to side, a little more tight moving, doesn't go too far over. He kind of gets restricted by the belt right there, but there's a little bit of movement back and forth there as well. He does have his Jedi robes, softer plastic coming over the bottom here, but one thing that this figure doesn't have, the 3 3/4 inch one has, is that cloth piece underneath there, and it just looks, it almost looks like a loincloth without it. Like, you need to have that piece on there. I would have preferred they make it, if they ever do revisit this figure, maybe in the archive line, greatest hits line or whatnot, make it with that separate cloth piece there. It goes a long way in the detail on this figure. As far as the leg, you can move his legs out that far, not too far, and then of course you can move them at the knees, okay, and of course you can move it at the ankles, and just like the 3 3/4 inch one, he's got rocker ankles, okay, and that's what he looks like underneath, and then from the side, and then from the back, minus any action features, the running joke of the video, okay? So that's Anakin Skywalker from this particular outfit, the Padawan from Attack of the Clones. But we want to get every Anakin in this video because I may not get an opportunity to do the other two because there's only 2 versions of him. And that's Anakin Skywalker in the Peasant disguise. So let's just put this guy back over here. And let's look at Peasant Anakin. So they made a version of Anakin Skywalker in the movie as well in a different outfit. This is where he's escorting Padme back to Naboo. And they go on to a civilian ship. And they go on in disguise as peasants. So we got this Anakin Skywalker in 2002 as well, with all the other figures. And again, he's action feature loaded. He's pre-posed. Okay, he does come with this scarf or shawl or poncho that's going over the top. It's nicely detailed. It's weathered a little bit there as well, but it's not fabric, it's plastic, and that's what it looks like all the way around, but it's sculpted nicely on there. But again, he's got action features here already that kind of limit what you can do with this figure. And when we take that robe off, you're going to see a very different Anakin Skywalker from the stuff that we saw with the Power of the Force 2 line. You ready? So let's take that robe off and we see a very skinny Anakin Skywalker underneath there. Now, it's nice to see that he's got different like vest or outfit on the bottom there, but you see that his arms are pre-posed, so you can move his head side to side. His head is a little bit small in proportion to his body. He does turn at the waist, okay, side to side. And then you can lift his arms up and down. And then you can lift his legs that far up. And again, they're pre-posed. Okay, but that's the Anakin that we got with the Saga Collection in the Peasant disguise. And that's what he looks like from the side. So again, pre-posed. And then from the back, and we notice nothing on the back here, but we notice a little familiar action feature here on the side. So they went and retooled and revisited the original style of lightsaber that we got. So I think they played around with a lot of stuff to see what feedback they'd get. And although this is neat, it definitely restricts it by having that lightsaber go all the way up to the top of his shoulder. And when you move that little dial down, you can see his lightsaber comes out. So it's a nice feature. I'm sure they experimented and kids liked it, but as a result of that giant lightsaber in hand, you really can't do much with this guy. He's fixed and posed. He's more like a laser pointer than a Jedi Knight action figure, but that's the action feature that he had. Now, they came with more than one action feature, which was really neat. They really experimented with these figures. He came with this chest, and every figure had force features, especially if they were Jedis. And in this case, Anakin Skywalker has a magnet in his hand that acts as a force feature, and he can open this chest to see whether there's anything hiding inside. So let's see if it works 20 years later. So you put the hand over the little magnet piece that's sitting there. Okay, and when you go over it and slide it to the side, let's see if I can get it to work. Use the force. And then that chest opens up. Ta-da, it still works. So there's a small little mechanism here on the inside where the magnet comes over and it touches that little metal piece there on the top of this scanning computer. I don't remember seeing this in the movie, but I guess you could put it somewhere in the background in the Lars homestead, where Anakin was talking to Padme after, where Luke would end up. So it does come with a little laser blaster in there as well. Let's see if I can get that out. I can, and that's got some detail on it. It's a nice little feature, and it's basically a computer table added accessory, but it's nice to have these little features or gimmicks that they had on there, because it lets you play around with the figures a little bit. And see, it doesn't stay closed unless you bring that magnet all the way back over. So that's the Anakin that we got in Peasant disguise. And of course, of all the figures to come out in the vintage collection, they would release an Anakin in Peasant disguise, and this would be in 2011. So right in the heat of the line, in the middle of the line, we got this Anakin Skywalker over here. Let's bring him forward without knocking everything over. And there he is, depicted from the movie. It says here Anakin Skywalker Peasant disguise, and you can see him in package there, and he's got cloth robe on. And we're going to look at the figure loose as well. He comes with an unlit lightsaber, and of course the lit lightsaber in there. And we can see the card back, and of course it's the first time they were putting any of the prequel figures on vintage cards, so it was nice to see that. If we turn around to the back, we'll see that it's VC number 32, and then there is his original release from 9 years earlier in 2002. The Anakin Skywalker with that chest, you can see there, and then that's the card back that he initially came with. And then here's some other figures that were available in the wave as well, and that's the Anakin Skywalker carded. And then we have another version of him that's loose. Now, I never opened that initial one, but they did re-release him again this year. So 2021/2022, they did some more figures that were part of that original vintage collection wave, and they re-released them with face scan technology. Padme was one of them. The TIE Fighter pilot was another one. Battle droid, and then we get Anakin Skywalker in Peasant disguise, and that's him over here loose. Now, his outfit here is a slightly different fabric material than that one that came with the original release, which I like better. But this one looks a little bit more movie accurate. It's not as see-through, and looks more what you can see on the card back there. So he does have that robe pulled over, and of course he does have a real scan technology on this guy as well. And again, he looks more like Eddie Munster than he does like Anakin Skywalker, but he does look a lot better than that original release. He's a little more realistic, and his head is on a ball, so you can move him back and forth, side to side. It's funny, I'm looking at it for the first time, but I think it might actually be the same head sculpt as the Padawan one that we just got. And it looks very similar. The hair looks a little bit different. No, it might actually be a brand new head sculpt. It is. They're not exactly the same. There's slight variations to them, but for some reason, Eddie Munster. Okay, so that's him with the robe on. Let's get the robe off and look at him as well. So the robe just slips up over his head, and you can take that off directly. And then we're left with Anakin Skywalker without the robe on. So he still has that same jacket like the one that we saw with the original release in 2002. And you can actually see it on the card back there underneath the poncho that he's got over. And again, he's a little bit thinner than he is on the other action figures, which I would have liked to see him a little bit bulkier, but we'll take it still. So he's got full articulation here. We saw the head was on a ball. He does have a ball there at the shoulders. You can move his arms up. You can bend him at the elbows, and you can turn him at the wrists there. He does have some articulation here at the waist. You can move him back and forth. He does have this large belt piece that comes over his waist, and you can attach his unlit lightsaber there, hide it under the robes. And then as far as leg articulation, they move up and down. He does have articulation here at the knees, so you can bend him at the knees. And of course, he has some articulation there at the ankle as well, and you can turn that side to side. Okay, but he doesn't have the rocker ankles, unfortunately. But he's in position to defend the queen or senator on her trip back to Naboo. So that's what he looks like without the robes on from the front. That's what he looks like underneath. And then that's what he looks like from the side. And then from the back with no action features on this guy either. Okay, so no lightsaber that extends up out of his arm. You got a good version of Anakin Skywalker from Attack of the Clones, and he's complete now. So that does it for the review. Those are all the Anakin Skywalkers that we got from Attack of the Clones. I did want to show the Peasant one as well as the Padawan one, just because I don't know if I'd have another opportunity to do a review just based on two figures. So again, I love doing these reviews. I hope that you enjoy them, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.